Welcome to Real Health with me, Karl Henry. Folks, every now and again we do these episodes where we look at your questions from my Instagram account. We pick some of the really, really common ones, and myself and my producer, JJ, and we chat the breeze about the questions, the answers, and we give you as much content as we possibly can. As ever, you can keep them coming in to me. You can email us questions as well, realhealth@independent.ie, or on my Instagram account @KarlHenryPT. JJ, how's it going?
Not too bad.
It's been a while since we've done one of these.
Yes, it's pre-Christmas, so it was 2025 that we did our last one. So there's a stack of questions waiting. We have 4 combination of Instagram and emails in.
Great.
The first one, very interesting. Hi, Karl. My son has started doing weights at the age of 16. Yeah. He's big into rugby and he's mad to start taking protein powder. What do you advise?
Adolescent health is really trendy. It's never been cooler to be in the gym. From a sports perspective, gym, protein powders, it's all over the country. GAA, rugby, soccer, they're all at basketball. It's very common. Okay, from a weights perspective, first thing is they need to learn how to do the movements and what to do. So like when I was in school, which makes me sound really old when I say that, but when I was in school, we did weights probably from second year up. And it was in the morning, we go in, we lift in just bars with weights on them, really light, learning how to do upright rows, bench presses, military presses, bicep curls, squats, how to do all the movements. That's the first thing. Right. Then you add in some weight after that. So once he's strong enough to add some weight, there's no issue with that whatsoever. It's just having someone put a program together. So the school or the team or the club should be able to do that. If not, it's worth getting him a session or her a session with a PT to say, do a program that they can go off in the school gym and do it so they know exactly what they're doing. When you exercise, you tear your muscle fibers. That's regardless of whatever age you are. They're minute tears in the fibers. Protein makes that grow back together stronger. Again, no matter what age you are, whether you're 15, whether you're 85, that's what happens. Ideally, we eat our protein first. And then if you can't get enough of it, you drink it. That's the easiest way to describe that. So protein-rich foods, eggs, chicken, turkey, fish, corn, beans. Actually, one I came across recently was butter beans after the fiber ep that we did. Butter beans have the same amount of protein or slightly more than a chicken breast per tin of butter beans.
Right.
And they've your daily fiber intake. Now, that's not overly recommended because you'll have a sore tummy. In a tin of butter beans. So I put butter beans into like a stew or lasagna.
Yeah, I suppose this is from the mom's perspective. So she, like a young lad's hardly gonna.
Oh, young lad won't do that. But she, if she's making or whoever's making the dinners at home, add a tin. It's a great way for fiber and protein. So your meats are your protein sources, and then if not, you drink it. Don't buy the protein powder off Amazon. Go get a really good one. So Kinetica, really good. Optimum Nutrition are very good, and Perform Nutrition. They're the 3 kind of brands, 2 of which are Irish, which is nice to recommend. There are other ones as Fem Fuels. I haven't tried it, but they're quite trendy. You want one basically that is batch tested. That's important. Right. And very few are batch tested. Okay. So it'll say on the label or their Instagram or their website that it's batch tested, and that is really important because they have less sugar and less crap in them than the cheaper ones that generally aren't great. And there's no issue there from an age perspective. That's absolutely fine. You also want to talk to your son then about recovery after session. So protein milk is really good.
Right. Flavored
milk is really good, or just milk and fruit after the session, and then eating a good dinner or a good lunch or whatever after.
Just on the protein, whey isolate. What's the difference there? Does it matter?
Whey is kind of. I think personally, I take whey protein is what I tend to take. There is a new one that I got sent, a clear one. I didn't like it.
I saw that.
And actually my skin reacted to it. I came out in hives, which can happen. I've had that with a few creatine products as well. I'm sensitive to something in it. I don't know what the something is, but it's very sweet. It's too sweet for me now. I'd rather milk and a whey protein, pick a flavour, off you go. Not that there's anything wrong with the clear one, but it doesn't taste right, is my review on it. And that's not, there's no brand mentioned there. It doesn't taste It's too sickly. It just tastes sickly sweet, and it is clear, and there's no milk with it. But you just mix it with water.
Are you going flavored, unflavored, and how many scoops?
I go flavored, chocolate or vanilla scoops, whatever's on the thing. It's like a 30-gram scoop, so kind of one.
Post-workout, pre-workout?
Post-workout always. Protein pre-workout, there's no benefit to that, really. There is over the course of the day, but like there's not really. Where you want to eat your meals normally, or if you're struggling and if I'm rushing for the train, like I might get a protein shake on the way home. Great. But in terms of a workout, you would never have one pre-workout. You'd always have a post-workout because it repairs those muscle fibers. Pre-workouts will be caffeine somewhere along the line, whether it's a caffeine tablet, caffeine chewy, a pre-workout, which are all caffeine and taurine, or else you go coffee, tea. So like a pre-workout, a caffeine in some way, shape or form is what everyone takes.
And young lads, 16-year-olds, this guy in particular, caffeine before workout or not?
Chances are they're probably taking it anyway.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
Like through an energy
That'd be my take on it, through an energy drink. Yeah, so give them a cup of coffee. Or, if you're specifically concerned, I'm making light of that. Ideally, no is the answer. They're 16, right?
I mean, I had coffee when I was in my teens. It's,
Well, that too, but like I'd have a pre-workout now because I'm absolutely exhausted heading into a session. So
you're a parent.
And life's bonkers. Life is really busy. So I feel I justify my pre-workout. Justifies a bit strong, but I need it. If I feel I need it, there's an addiction there too, but I feel that I need it. Where a 16-year-old, really, you don't need it. Like, you don't need that level of stimulation. You should have more than enough energy. So ideally, no pre-workout, and then protein afterwards is fine, whether it's eaten or drink. That's absolutely fine.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay, next question. I go out once a week, a couple of drinks on a Friday or a Saturday, but I've gotten into a habit of getting a takeaway pretty much every time I go out the next day.
Oh, yeah.
How do I get out of this, Karl? Thanks, Amy.
Oh, okay. Well, at least it's not on the way home. Although takeaways on the way home where it's salt. I used to do that as a kid. Like, you go to or as a kid when I was in college, Ishmael Kebabs up in Bagot Street, which is
lovely.
Like, oh yeah, like that's what you did. In my first year of college, and I got myself on. Okay, so all right, a couple of things there. One is before you go out. So never go out in an empty stomach. Always go out off the back of like a meal, or if you're going out at dinner, you food with your alcohol as well. Have water in between your drinks. So go alcohol, water, alcohol, water, alcohol, water. Last drink before bed should be water. Absolutely. If it's a big night out, then you go electrolytes. That's where they're everywhere. Oh, it's like the new last year and this year. It's like the new trend. But Diorolite or any of those types, like Electrosal or something before bed, will make a big difference. Then you're into the really important thing the next day. Then is the first meal. That first meal has to be something decent. Mm-hmm. If it's not, you'll spiral all day. So you'll go from carb to carb to carb to carb to carb, and they're all crappy carbs. If you have porridge for breakfast, you won't do that. If you have just something good, nutritious, healthy, whole grain toast, whole grain bagel with eggs, whatever, that'll set you up better for how you eat that day. A takeaway once a week, once every 2 weeks. There's no major problem with that. I wouldn't have we encourage some of our clients to do that. If they come in really strict, right, I'm going to do it. I'm never having a takeaway for the next 2 months. Well, you are, because you should. But then we teach them what to order. So, for example, you load up on your protein, you order extra veg, you stick to your quadrant of carbohydrates. Okay. So if you were to order a Chinese or an Indian, a quarter of that plate is your rice.
Okay.
Then we get them to load up with veg and meat and whatever the saucy stuff is. And you can add even, like we do that at home too, we add extra chicken in.
Okay.
So we'll have chicken breast cooked off in the fridge. We got to take away, they're always low on protein, the quantity of protein.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we will put a chicken breast or two into it and mix it in.
That's a fair actual estimation, because anytime I ever go and get fast food or even just fast lunch food when I'm in here in the office, they're stingy on the protein because it's most expensive.
They are, because the cost of living.
Yeah.
And the cost of supplying everything. Like, we got an Indian a few weeks ago. There was probably, I'd say half a chicken breast in it.
That's wild.
And then you are carving up on the naan bread and the rice and because you're starved. So we just chop up 2 chicken breasts and pop them in. So it's about what you order is important there, that you order kind of consciously and that you enjoy it. The quarter rule of the plate is really handy for takeaways. So it's a portion plate idea. Half the plate is salad or veg or meat or veg, basically. A quarter is your protein, and then a quarter is your rice.
Right.
And you can up the protein side of that if you want, but you keep the rice in around at about a quarter.
Okay, you keep.
So if you think of it like a takeaway comes in a silver tub of rice or whatever, you're probably taking maybe a third of that portion
Okay.
as your rice portion.
Oh, that's actually great.
It's a simple way to do it. It's just the portion plate, and then load up an extra protein. So it's about what you order is crucial. If it's like a pizza and garlic bread and whatever, there's no way around that. Like, just get really good quality. Go for like wood fired or get like a really good quality pizza if you're going to go down that road. There will be extra salt in that, so more salt than you would normally take because you're going to be thirsty. That's important. So water with that is crucial, and then water before bed because you'll wake up thirsty.
Yeah, I've always found that when you have a takeaway right before bed, you wake up like an hour in, you're just like...
I'd be the same. Like, I don't eat... We don't have salt on... I actually don't even think we have salt in the house. I just don't like it. There's no need for it either. Like, we get enough salt from the food that we eat. Processed food has lots of salt in it. So we get enough salt from it. So table salt, unless you're into cooking. I cook, but I'm not massively into it. We've no salt in anything. And like, we would make some... Like, if I'm making like a lasagna or a... What did I make this week? Beef and red wine stew. It was lovely. With my butter beans. We added in, it was fab. But we put no salt in that, and then we give it away to family, and like they don't notice that there's no, and they'd be big salt users now. They don't notice that there's no salt in it.
What are you using to sort of bulk, give it the flavor? Is it
Just the food, like
the ingredients? Yeah.
Yeah. So anyone who cooks listening is screaming at me, put the salt in. We don't put any salt in. So takeaway, you'll be very thirsty, or you probably wake up during the night parched.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you need some electrolytes and some water before you go to bed to sort that.
And then just finally on this question, the mindset to get out of that sort of, it turning into a bad Sunday, and what is your, I know...
write it down.
Yeah.
Easiest way to do it. Write it down, food diary. So 80-20 is the approach. 80-20, 80% of the time you're having all the healthy stuff, and then the other time you have a treat. So like a takeaway doesn't have to spill into Sunday. Takeaway should be, or a meal out should be a meal out, and you enjoy it, you savor it. It's like, how lucky are we to be able to order it? You know what I mean? Like that, I think that's a real privilege, actually, to be able to have the money to order it and make really good choices that you enjoy it and never feel guilty about it. If someone's trying to make you, if you're going to a gym or a boot camp or a whatever, and someone's trying to make you feel, or you're working with an online PT who's making you feel guilty for having a chocolate bar or a takeaway, drop them straight away. Go somewhere else, because life's too short.
And they're moralizing food.
They are, and there's no crack in that. Like, there's no need to moralize or demonize food. If food is food, you should be able to have balance. And is it processed? Absolutely, it is. Is it nice? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is there anything wrong with it? No. There is if it's 3 days a week, but on average, no. You need to be able to have a treat, enjoy it, savor it, don't stress about it. 80-20, and then just crack on the next day.
Is there a danger in, I'll start on Monday? Or
yeah, there is.
Is that too strict?
No, there is. I tend to, I do like Mondays. There's something about it as a, like if someone comes to work with us from an accountability perspective where they're sending food diaries through, I'll generally say Monday to them to start. Just because it just tends to be a better day for people. The trick there is, I'll start Monday and I'll never have chocolate ever again. That's the problem.
All or nothing.
Yeah. So it's that balance, the moderation that we look for. I'll start Monday and I'll set myself up for success. I will spring clean the kitchen, get rid of all the food that's gone off or that I don't want in the house. I will do a big food shop and bring the food in that I want. I will stock up where I spend time, where I'm going to for work or whatever with the food I want to eat, and I'll track my food. Great. That's all very normal and very straightforward. Monday just tends to work. There's something about a Monday. Yeah, it just tends to work. Like would you start it on a Wednesday? It just doesn't hit the same. It's funny.
No, yeah, and then
it's like starting like Monday. Whatever you do from your health perspective, it has to happen on a Monday. I.e., if you run, you have to run on a Monday, or if you do weights or whatever. If you don't do it on a Monday, it starts the week off on the wrong note, and it's harder to be healthy over the course of that week. You're more likely to fall off the wagon. There's just something about a Monday.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
And number 3, doom scrolling has hijacked my sleep ritual. Am I going to bed too alert and too awake?
Yes, and the issue around that is the habit of being in bed doom scrolling. That's a problem. So there's a couple of things there. Uh, Sleep. Okay, sleep is where we recover. It's where we relax. If we trigger our brains into be activated before bed, it takes us longer to relax and to get asleep. Your room environment's important. Should be dark, dull. Like if your room is like the studio, you're never sleeping. It should be over like the far side of the studio, which people can't see, which is dark. So your room should be dark, low lit, table lamps, relaxing. In an ideal world that pretty much no one does, it should be tech free. No, I don't nail that every time either. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but it doesn't seem to affect me. But it should be tech free. Half an hour before bed should be tech free. Now, I don't think anyone does that.
So hard.
So hard. But that's the goal. You listen to all the sleep people, we've interviewed loads of them, they all say the same thing. So it should be tech free. The phone should not be beside the bed. Buying that alarm clock, I bought one from Harvey Norman's a few weeks ago. Fabulous. Or DID had it as well, just happened to be near Harvey Norman's. It's great. It's really loud. It's a radio. It's deadly. And so take the phone away from beside the bed and buy a good book. Read something. I like books, but I don't read enough, as much as I'd like to. But they're all habit forming things. You can buy apps that lock your phone down. I have one. Freedom is the one I use.
Okay, right.
Brilliant. It's 20 quid a year or 30 quid a year. It locks the phone and I can't unlock it.
What time does it?
Like it locks the apps. I can set it. I set the lock.
What do you have it at?
It goes off at about 11 and doesn't kick in until about 6:37, depending on the days. I
You play
set it
with
for
yeah.
different days and times, but it's brilliant.
Okay.
Like I'll be on the train back down now after this, and I'll set it for the 2.5 hours of the train. So I lock myself out of all my social media apps,
Right.
so I can't look at them.
Is it key to do that at a different time to when you're, before bed? Because before bed, it's like watching TV. Right before bed, you're like, I'll just watch one more
Watching
episode.
TV is probably, I stand corrected on this. It's a neuroscientist will be able to tell us, but watching TV is probably better for you than your phone because the screen position.
Yes.
You think, where do you watch TV? It's at least 5, 10, 15 foot away. The further away, the better. Your phone might be a foot away or closer. So the impact of the light from the phone is more direct than it would be from a television screen.
And it's probably less curated to your individual taste as well.
You're also, TV will, yeah, absolutely. You're less likely to scroll on TV, but the challenge with, like Netflix is dopamine hitting you with content that makes you feel better or feel worse or whatever. It's mad. And I got into TikTok recently. It's awful. It's all like whatever about Instagram. I said old, but whatever. Like Instagram, I can see the function of it and whatever. TikTok's a whole different world of toxic. Not even the toxicity of it, but the how it's recorded is just, it's so triggering when you watch it that to stick to it, and then it rewards you for. It's not good.
Scrolling, yeah.
It's a very different platform to Instagram. It really, it's
Far more aggressive algorithm.
it's awful.
Yeah.
It's not. It's just not. Anyway.
And just picking up on the going to bed too alert.
Yes.
Is that to do with when you're waking up, or is it your level of exercise during the day? And do you need to be like absolutely wrecked going to bed almost?
It depends how long it takes you to go to sleep.
Okay.
You should be able to sleep within half an hour, unless you're reading a book or something like that. So the wind down for that person may take longer, just from the busyness of their day. They might need strategies in place when they get home for an hour before they kick into their evening routine or whatever. It's about trying to get your wind down correct. So different people will wind down quicker. Like I could fall asleep in the corner now very happily. Some people might take them 2 hours. So like the wind down is important, and how you wind down. You look at your caffeine intake, you look at your food intake later in the evening, make sure there's no sugar, and got some protein in with dinner. No caffeine after 2 o'clock during the day, maybe 3 o'clock during the day, depending on the person. So that's down to how you manage your come down. Could be, for some people, it takes longer to come down. Sauna can really work for people. A hot sauna can really help you sleep.
I found that personally, yeah. I think it's
Fantastic. And there's a few things in that. So you're not on your phone in the sauna. You're generally chatting in the sauna at some stage, or else you're quiet, but it's an hour of just regulatory behaviors that regulate you, so you do sleep better afterwards. And there is something in that heat recovery component too.
Great. And so final question. Hi, Karl. Alana here. I recently looked up a calorie calculator, and for my height and weight, it's telling me 2,000 calories a day for someone who exercises 3 to 4 times a week. But I keep breaking that limit. Do you use calorie calculators, or what's your approach?
Okay, so none of my clients count calories. Not one, I don't think. Is there one? No, there's not. Sometimes people like it, but we generally don't use it. Okay, so for that person, 2,000 calories is a fair amount. Like that, it's a very normal amount. Normally, the calculators are much lower. They're 12, 1,300 calories, which produce weight loss. It's like the walking diet that's been peddled around Ireland the last couple of years. It's like it's all walking and 1,200 calories. It's bullshit. It's absolute nonsense. So people lose weight, can't keep it off because it's 1,200. Like 1,200 calories is what a child is on. Like 1,200 is so low.
Can't sustain that.
You can't. No. So like you generally look at. It's bonkers. You look at 1,700, 1,800 calories and up for most people. You do have to look at your activity levels. If you're a marathon runner, you're going to need more. Average gym goer, you probably won't do it. Around 2,000 is probably about right. And how do you track it? Okay, so there's a couple of things there. One is using a smart scale, so find your BMR. So your BMR is your basal metabolic rate. Tells you how many calories you burn at rest. We should all know that because that's related to your muscle mass and your fat mass. That is a percentage of your daily output, and you normally add another kind of 30-40% on top of that to see what your output of calories is over the course of the day. Ish. And then you work back from that to create the deficit from a weight loss perspective of what you should be eating. That's the easiest way to do it. It sounds kind of complicated. If you have access to it, or if you have access to someone locally who has one, do a proper smart scale, like a Tanita or an in-body scan. Okay. Like most dietitians will do it. We do it, where you can come in, get a printout of like a proper machine that costs like 5-10 grand, and get a bit more of a specific recommendation. Then you can track your food if you want from a calorie perspective, but I just don't like it. I don't think there's a need for it. I think it's obsessive, and I think it's short term. Just start writing it down. When you start writing, chances are we all know what's healthy and what's not. Right. By writing it down, you begin to tune into what you know and what you don't, because you just you start eating better naturally. Mm-hmm. You start cooking more yourself, and guess what? You lose weight because you're inputting less calories because you're just tracking it. So for us, tracking is pen and paper. Easiest way. I don't count macros, don't count micros, don't count anything. Or with clients, because they don't need to. And like that, they lose weight, funnily enough. They gain muscle mass because we get them eating protein with 2 of the 3 meals each day. Or they have an awareness that a chicken breast has 25 to 30 grams of protein, or that an egg has 9 grams of protein. We teach them skills as opposed to a calorie calculator. So they're real world skills. They apply the portion plate idea, which is your quarter and your half salad and veg, so that you eat better. And that's what we do. So I would, if possible, you get a BMR check, get some professional advice, track your food with a pen and paper, and then track your stats over the course of a 6, 8, 12 week period, every week or every 2 weeks. Wednesday's a good day for the health check, because the damage from the weekend, if there is so much there generally is, will be kind of neutralized, if you like, by midweek. Yeah. If you weigh in on a Monday, bad day for weighing.
Yeah, because it's.
If you've had a couple of drinks on Saturday, you're still processing that. But by Wednesday, you've balanced that out, if you like, from a calorie perspective. So like Wednesday's the day all our accountability clients check in. We send us screenshots of their smart scale data.
And just with that portion plate idea that you mentioned, and you mentioned in a previous question, if someone is just eyeballing their food and is writing down pen and paper, for lunch and dinner, I figure that's kind of easy. Mm-hmm. Quarter, and then half veg. Is there, if the person is still hungry, are they adding protein on top?
Protein, yeah. So like you up your protein intake, absolutely. Your body will store what it wants. It'll excrete what it doesn't want. Fine. Challenge is when people have excess carbs, you store it. That's the challenge.
The body's credit system. Yeah,
absolutely. So with protein, you very much won't do that. So yeah, if you're hungry, you just increase your protein intake. Absolutely. The other helpful thing is that weight window. That idea of the other thing is that food window of 12 hours, eating in a 12-hour period.
Okay.
Start to finish, 12 hours gives you a framework on your day, and gives your body 12 hours to digest your food. Because we don't really digest our food particularly well, because we eat so fast and eat so much.
Right. And for example, a busy day like today, you're up early.
Yeah.
You're going to be traveling down late. Are you taking something on the run?
Pretty much. Like
Yeah.
this morning, I was up. I was working at what time was I working at 5:30, 4:45. I had breakfast at 9. So my 12 hours, if you apply that, work gets me till 9 o'clock.
Okay.
So I'll be home in the door by 9. The train back down. I'll pick something up in the train station. There's actually a fresh supermarket or shop in Houston. It's fab. It's actually really good. So I'll go in there and then I'll eat it on the train on the way down. So it could be a salad box, could be sushi, might bring a yogurt. Depends on what I feel like.
Perfect.
Yep.
That's our lot. Thank you.
Epic, good man. Folks, a lot of content. We covered a lot of ground today. If you have any questions yourself, feel free to email us, realhealth@independent.ie. If you follow me on Instagram at Karl Henry PT, we do the Q&A every single week. So generally every Friday, the Q&A box goes up and I finish it on Saturday. So you can pop your question in there. I'll try and get to as many as I can. We get about 1,000 each week. So I don't get to all of them. Obviously, I can't generally answer about kind of 50 to 100, but I'll try my best. As ever, have a great week. And we'll see you next week for more Real Health.